When Sugar Ray Robinson was asked who hit him the hardest, he gave a surprise answer. Artie Levine, November 6, 1946. Robinson was 25. Untouchable. He walked into the ring as a 4-1 favorite, and most figured it was just another night at the office. But not everyone was so sure. Ed Bang, one of those old-school fight scribes, saw something different. "I look for a whale of a fight from start to finish," Bang wrote. Sugar carries his hands low, and Levine has a terrific left hook. It will be the rapier of Robinson against the broadsword of Levine. Levine had a brain trust behind him. Tommy Dio managing his affairs, Ray Arcel fine-tuning the training. Arcel liked the odds. Liked that his guy had the weight advantage. "He will weigh in at 160 at noon," Arcel said, "but he's going to put away 2 healthy meals before the fight, which may raise his weight to 164. 9 pounds heavier than Robinson at the weigh-in, plus another 4 pounds by the opening bell. For the first 3 rounds, Robinson painted a masterpiece. Crisp, clean, effortless. The kind of thing that made his opponents shake their heads and wonder why they even laced up gloves in the first place. But then came the 4th, and Levine carved his name into boxing history with a left hook and a right hand that nearly ended the Sugar Ray story right then and there. Robinson never saw it coming. A short, brutal left, then the right, pure dynamite exploding against his jaw. He crumpled, his body betraying him, flopping on the canvas like a fish dumped onto a hot sidewalk. The crowd held its breath. Levine was already tasting victory. But the ref? He wasn't in any hurry. He grabbed Levine, walked him to the neutral corner, then strolled back and started counting. By the time Robinson staggered up at 9, Levine was already shaking his head. Levine insisted that he knocked out Robinson and that he was victimized by a long count. When he went down, the referee walked me across the ring to a neutral corner and started the count at 1, Levine said. The fans went wild. Ed Bang, the old fight columnist, backed him up. "I counted at least 12 seconds before Robinson got up," Bang wrote. But the fight wasn't over. Robinson moved forward. Levine swarmed. Punches rained down from every direction, fists flying like he was going to break something that refused to crack. "Move, baby, move," screamed Robinson's wife from ringside. But Robinson didn't move. He stood. He took the storm, and just before the bell, he fired back, a right hand that stopped Levine in his tracks. Robinson's brain was still scrambled. He sat in his corner between rounds, blinking, dazed, convinced it was still the 4th. When his manager told him the 8th round was coming up, he just stared. Then came the 9th, and Levine's left hook found him again, a longer, meaner version of the one that nearly ended him in the 4th. Robinson staggered. His legs betrayed him. His body swayed like a drunk in the wind. The crowd gasped. It looked like the great Sugar Ray was finally about to fold, but he didn't. His instincts were something beyond human. One second he was on the brink, the next he was fighting back, snapping punches like a man who refused to go under. By the 10th, Robinson was still ahead on points. The smart move was to play it safe. His corner told him to stay careful, but Robinson had pride. Levine had rocked him, made him look mortal, and Robinson wasn't about to let that stand. Levine came out smiling for the last round. He figured he'd already seen the worst of Robinson's punches. He was wrong. Robinson hit him with the right to the solar plexus that folded him up like a cheap chair. Levine's hands dropped just for a second, long enough for Sugar Ray to go to work. Another shot, then another, then another. Levine sagged, then slumped, then hit the canvas and stayed there. "It was like fighting a machine," Levine said. "You don't get any openings with Ray. He's moving away from you, and as you were getting off a punch, he would touch you on the shoulder, knocking you off balance and killing the punch." Robinson never gave him a rematch. "Ray didn't want to fight me again," Levine said. "Maybe once was enough." Artie Levine was born on January 26, 1925, and grew up in the streets of Brooklyn, back when the kids played stickball until the streetlights flickered off and dodged trolley cars like they were playing chicken with death. But one day the game changed. A car hit him, snapped his left leg like a twig. With nothing to do but heal, Levine hobbled into a gym one day, looking for something, anything, to keep his body moving. That's where he found the ring, or maybe the ring found him. For a year, he walked around with a crutch jammed under his arm, and without knowing it, he was sculpting a weapon. His left arm got fast, loose, deadly. "My left became quick," Levine said, "agile and loose." By the time his leg was right again, his left hook could knock the teeth out of a man twice his size. The gym owner saw it right away. Told Levine he'd train him for free. And that was it. Levine became hooked on boxing. "I became completely preoccupied," Levine said. I did my homework on the way to fights. Boxing kept me off the streets, kept me out of jail. It was all I knew, and at the time, nothing scared me. But he did fear the disappointment of his parents. He fought under assumed names because he was too young to fight professionally. Then one night, he came home with $250 in his pocket. His father, a city traffic manager, worked all week for only $55, so Levine fessed up. He had some of the best game in his corner: Fat Benny Greenfield, Charlie Goldman, Ray Arcel. He became a local sensation in New York and Jersey, packing arenas with gamblers, gangsters, and big shots. Even Babe Ruth became a fan. By 1943, he was in the Marines, a fighting Marine just like his idol, Gene Tunney. He hit so hard they ran out of guys willing to spar with him. Even Rocky Graziano backed out of a big-money fight. But then came March of 1946. Jimmy Doyle. Doyle had him beat on points, moving well, tagging him, but Levine caught up with him in the ninth, knocked him down 3 times. The last time, Doyle hit the back of his head on a cloth-covered metal buckle. Doyle lay there, motionless, his body sprawled under the harsh arena lights. The seconds stretch, then minutes, 15 of them, while the crowd shifted uncomfortably in their seats. They brought out the stretcher, the respirator hissing like a slow leak in a bad dream. Levine stood there, watching, not sure if he just won a fight or killed a man. He almost died that night, Levine said later. It was a terrible thing. I thought he would have given Sugar Ray hell up until then. Doyle lived, but not for long. A year later, Sugar Ray Robinson killed him in the ring. Levine was never the same after that. If I didn't knock them out with one punch, Levine said, I couldn't finish them off. I tensed up. The killer instinct was gone, all because I hurt Doyle. By the time he had fought Robinson, Levine had lost his killer instinct. He boxed for 3 more years after Robinson stopped him, but by the age of 24, he was done. 3 straight losses, and he saw the writing on the wall, not just in his own fists, but in the game itself. A business that chewed up men and spat them out, their reflexes dulled, their hands slowed, their names forgotten. Some nights he'd show up sick, fever burning, body dragging, and instead of calling the fight off, his manager just smiled, bet against him, and sent him out there anyway. Levine hated it, hated the way fighters were used up like cheap cigarettes, their best years gambled away by men who never took a punch. So he got out, walked into a library, picked up a book, and taught himself the meat business of all things. 12 years of cutting deals, running his own wholesale operation in New York, before selling it because he got sick of the grind. Then he switched gears, selling Volkswagens in Queens, becoming one of their top salesmen. He was married to his first wife for over 38 years until she passed, raised 3 kids, and became a grandfather many times over. Later, he remarried, left the city behind, and settled in Matthews, North Carolina. Even gave boxing lessons at a gym in Charlotte, passing on the tricks, the feints, the muscle memory that never left him. On January 13, 2012, Artie's final bell rang. He was 86 years old. Boxing was one of the best things I ever got into, Artie said. I was very fortunate to do what I did.